It looks like we're live. So if you're tuning in, you're tuning into one more episode of the Detective Diaries. This is a weekly or bi-weekly broadcast where I just kind of go out and I find the individuals that are very strange or very interesting in my paranormal travels, and I ask them to come on with me, and we create a Detective Diary episode because that's what I do. I like asking a lot of questions. So the cool thing is today we're going to have Russell Acord of Travel Channel's Expedition Bigfoot on. This is really exciting for me because I'm really interested in that stuff. And so I'm just looking forward to having him on. Russell, please join us on the broadcast. Hey, man.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks a lot for taking time out and taking a shower and getting all clean and everything for me.
You wouldn't have wanted me any other way. It was bad.
Yeah.
I forgive me for the hat, but with this big head of hair, it's just gotten.
That's awesome.
It's just too much. It's just too much. I feel like a woolly mammoth or something.
Yeah. Well, I just got a haircut today. This is my first haircut since before COVID and all the rest of the power grab that that the politicians are doing. But so what have you been doing today other than showering for me?
The shower was really imperative. I had some small electrical stuff I wanted to look at in my house. Fix a couple little things. My yard looks amazing because I'm spending so much time at home. My garage looks great. My office is organized. It's just unreal. So everything homebound.
I've gotten quite a bit done myself, considering my schedule hasn't changed. We're still answering calls. We're still,
Right.
From my perspective, it seems like our suicide rate has gone way up.
Oh, that's too bad.
Well, we'll see when all this is when this is over and goes back to normal on, whether there was an actual increase or whether it was just a perceived increase. Sometimes, sometimes that happens. But now that we really put some energy into the show, so you and I, met at the Texas Bigfoot Conference, Southeast Texas Bigfoot Conference. Is that right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, man.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and there was a lot more people there than I was expecting, and I met a lot of really cool people while I was there. I think we met on that riverboat, right? We went on the little riverboat cruise thing.
I think we met before that because we talked in the hallway there in the corridor where people kept walking back and forth to come and talk with Bob.
Oh, that's right.
Cruised by and I knew you recognized Bob.
Yeah.
But we just kind of chatting a little bit, and then the riverboat cruise was awesome.
So let's see. While we're sitting here, here's who we're talking about. We're talking about Bob Gimlin. Hey, man, don't put any pictures on the internet that you're not expecting for anybody to see.
How could you?
It was 2 seconds, man. It was only
nothing's safe, man. Nothing is safe with you. That's awesome.
I don't know what to do. Do you want to try to explain that picture?
I had long hair. I had a little niece that was I was sitting at the couch, and she I love that. She stood behind me and started to mess with my hair, and I just you don't pay attention to things like that. You're kind of involved in the conversation, and I next thing you know, I saw what she did, and I said, okay, let's get a picture because this is not how I normally look. So
okay.
Fun. I didn't go out partying looking like that. I should have.
You might have got some action. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it would have been the action that you wanted.
Probably not. Not.
So yeah, man. And I know are you a pretty big motorcycle guy, or you just have a motorcycle?
No, I've had a Harley forever.
Okay.
You'll never catch me without a Harley. I've ridden a lot with just some military groups, but I've always had the bike. That's just part of who I am and what I do. And some people love it. Some people absolutely are repulsed by it. But either way, I wake up, I face myself in the mirror, and I'm okay with who I see. So
That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah.
I know it irritates my wife and my friends and people, but especially being a cop, I got a cop car sitting in front of the house, and I get on my motorcycle with no helmet and take off, and everybody's like, "What are you doing? Haven't you seen enough?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to be that guy that had the motorcycle helmet on, and that's all I have left is my head."
Right. I saw that bike you picked up the other day. You showed me pictures of that and cut the back fender off.
Yeah,
that actually looked better that way. I like that look.
It did. And I'm trying to figure out, because I spent 4 years in the Navy and so almost 4 years in the Army. And I'm trying to figure out whether I'm going to paint it green or paint it gray. I'm not sure which yet, but I'll figure that part out.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, I'm gonna do a quick caveat to our conversation. We're going to be talking about Expedition Bigfoot. However, don't those of you who are watching, if you want to know where these things happened and specific things about it, we're not going to be able to talk about that because it's an ongoing show and there's secrets that they need to maintain. So, any other questions? For those that are watching, you can go down into the comments, and if you would comment on where you're watching from, and also share this broadcast, it'd be great.
Yeah, let me clarify something. It's we don't have a guaranteed second season. That's something that as all of us cast members are really hoping for. But until I mean, really, there's a lot of talk. But you and I both know until you're standing in front of a camera and it's actually real, then you just kind of wait it out. I know there's been talk about it, and then the COVID kind of slapped everybody into the dirt, so it's just really put everything else on the back burner for everyone. As far as the show, there's things that we're not permitted to talk about just because we need to keep some of the things, respect privacy of property owners or people involved in that sort of thing. But I tell you what, working with that group of people, Ronnie and Maria and Bryce, what a privilege that was. And you get into something that you start seeing the value that other people bring to the table with their backgrounds and their education. And it was just
Maria, when you guys, so we don't know we don't know each other really on a professional level, but I mean that's what I've done for 30 plus years. I've been a professional investigator. I've also been a researcher, and I take a lot of focus in on credibility. And when you have somebody like Maria, when you have somebody like her investigating with you, and they bring her on a TV show, man, that's credibility right there. And I was really impressed with the evolution. You guys took Bigfoot researching and finally brought it to the 21st century. That's my opinion.
I share your opinion. We got to, not only was I permitted to work with somebody like Maria, I have a bachelor's degree, but it's nothing like a PhD that she carries. And when you have somebody with that level of education, and especially with the places she's traveled with, she's been all over the map with her research and the education she brought. I had questions, and she was able to just field just about anything I threw her way, just with on the top of her head base knowledge. And it was great to have somebody like that out there. And out of where there's 3 guys and 1 female, and she was more fearless than the 3 of us. The flashlight goes out, she doesn't care. She's still plunging through the darkness. And I'm thinking, slow down.
Right.
She's tough.
Yeah,
She's a
man.
tough
Well,
girl.
any woman that, like steps up and is in the military or a CEO or someone
Right.
like her that's a lead and trailblazer. I mean, honestly, women have to work harder than us dudes do. They have that level where I think all of us want to express that we're competent with each other.
Yeah.
But women have had a rough go of it. Do you know Dr. Shay Steingass? I think you might have met her.
The name isn't ringing a bell. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I had her on the other day, and she is a marine biologist and just an all around amazing person. And I had her on the other day, and we were talking about sea monsters, and we kind of went in a complete circle. And she herself brought up the fact that Bigfoot is very probable. It's something that that makes. I think she used the word it makes sense.
Right. Sure.
So what? I know you've been asked this 100 times, but what got you down this trail? What was the thing that happened long ago that got you down this trail?
Same as everybody else. A couple old cowboys in California getting some footage. I remember seeing that. I was in Romney, West Virginia as a kid. That's where I grew up, back east. Born in Baltimore, and I think I was 6 or 7. I was just a kid, and my parents took me to a theater. We sat in the theater chairs and watched this film, and you hear the howl, and you see the guy holding the what looked like the cone-shaped skull, and I remember driving home. I don't think I slept very much that night because it did scare the crap out of me. I thought, wow, if there's something like that out there. And I spend all my time back east when we grew up. I was always playing in the woods. Never did the normal kid stuff. I was always out playing in the woods. And that terrified me. I thought, holy crap, if there's something that big out there, I look like a field mouse. So I got started on that, and I never stopped looking. Always kind of on the lookout for whatever could be out there. I was game for it. So
typically I don't like to tell a lot of stories and stuff, since this is, you're here for to know about you, but I have to share one particular thing. There's an abandoned town up in Alaska, Port Chatham.
Yep.
Yeah. So check this out, man. I'm in the airborne unit there at Fort Richardson, and I did something cool. I don't know what it was, but so they sent me to the MWR station in Seward, and that's Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Center for the military, and they would send all these people to this place. And I don't have any pictures I can share right now, but I think up in Alaska, it was they would send you to the Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Center so that you would get a better attitude, because the Morale Recreation Center sucked really bad. It was worse than what we were living in. It was Quonset huts and dirt, and there wasn't anything there. It was freaking terrible. But there was a contingent of Coast Guardmen there with these little 32, 34-foot boats, right? And you could go over and sign up to go fishing. So I was there during the week, and there wasn't anybody there. And I went down, to go check out the town and everything. And I met with these Coast Guardmen, and I talked this 19 and 20-year-old Coast Guardmen to take me all the way over to Port Chatham and or Port Locke, Washington. And it took us 3 hours to get there.
Oh,
yeah. And it's in Alaska. The weather was pretty good. It got weird there for a little bit. It changes so quickly. So anyway, that was in 1984.
Ooh.
So we went ashore 1984 and walked all over that place. And that's one of the places I've been. I've been to the Dracula's castle, Hunadora Castle, in the middle of the night. I didn't get as creeped out as I did at 2:00 in the afternoon in Port Locke, Washington. It was really creepy. And I don't know whether I was picking up on, there were bear trails everywhere.
Sure.
And I don't know whether I was picking up on that I was like, oh, this is bad, or whether it was something else. But
so let's charter a boat and go. I'll go with you.
I would love to. I was actually talking to Lynn. That's my wife. And, well, you know her. Anyway, I was actually thinking about doing that this summer. And that was one of the plans that I was going to do, because I did a cryptid talk in Michigan, and that was one of the stories that I shared. So I'm up.
Okay, so if I'll make this public. If you ever go up there, I would like option to go with you. That would be something I would love doing. And I've heard that people that go up there will sleep on a boat but not sleep on the land because there's a lot of threat there.
Oh, so I didn't see any bear while I was there.
Oh, they were there. You know they were, though.
They were, yeah. But the problem is I didn't see any, but the evidence was overwhelming. It was almost like a dump. The amount of fecal matter and trails up there. It's like, man. So anyway, you know that place has a crazy history on people disappearing and weird things happening, and that's why they shut the whole town and moved out. The whole damn town left in what, 1949?
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I think the structures are still there. From what I understand, some of the structures are still there.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to go up and just gut it out.
All right. Well, I think we can make that happen. So you're located in Washington, right?
Right. So quick question though, and I would have to put this out there. If we go out there and we're carrying nothing more than pepper spray, that's not very inviting. I have to have a means to protect myself. What are the statutes of being able to carry realistic protection for you and I? I don't want somebody. I don't want to hire somebody to walk around with a weapon for me. I will carry my own because I trust my own instincts.
Sure.
So where are we with that? Is that possible?
Unless the laws have changed, you can do whatever the hell you want to in Alaska.
Outstanding.
So
I'm in.
And I don't think the laws have changed up there much. But I do have a very good friend. His name is Jeff Hall. He's featured in the coffee table book. I say coffee table book, the real book called Sniper.
I've talked with him.
Yeah, he was that?
I was actually going to go to his class, but this whole COVID thing killed us.
There you go. He's awesome, man.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, he was up there. So we have a connection up there that we'll be able to hook up and get any kind of support from the State Patrol up there.
Perfect.
Yeah, he used to be the lieutenant over their training academy, and he's just an all around freaking awesome dude.
Yeah,
but man, I might call you on this. Your plane flight would be really cheap, right, from Washington?
I don't know. I could figure a way through it. I could bear it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying. I think I have some airline miles, so I might be able to talk my wife into letting me go. Since the COVID thing, we're going to be in the woods, man. Who cares?
Yeah, we'll stay 6 feet away from each other. No big deal.
Oh, I'm not guaranteeing that. You and me in the woods?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Just saying.
There's no cameras, right? No cameras?
No. And for those of you that are just tuning in, I'm talking with Russell Acord, Travel Channel's Expedition Bigfoot, and we're going to Alaska, and we're going to go see one of the coolest places. It's going to be hard to get there. We're going to have to hire somebody to.
Yeah, we have to hire somebody to get us up there through the waterways. But once we're there, I don't know how long they'll stay there on standby. But I wouldn't mind having an escape method but I wouldn't mind spending a few days on the soil and literally staying on the land, just because nobody can do that. Nobody has that claim. Oh right. Yeah, I went up and went camping there for a week. Who can say that?
Hey man, we'll sit back to back on by the fire, and it'll be fine. So tell us about, the Pacific Northwest. It seems like a majority of Bigfoot encounters, Bigfoot stories and stuff are kind of up in that area. That's where y'all are concentrating, right?
Yeah. I actually just put a blurb out on the radio, not on the radio, on Facebook about wanting to talk to people about their adventures or testimonials if they've had experience in the Washington State area. It's close to home. If I don't want to travel outside the state, I can grab if it's someplace that's fairly decent ground and get Bob out there. The more I can get that man in the woods, the better he feels. So for him, definitely. But the Cascades are a little steep for Bob, but getting into the Bumping Lake area, we've been there a few times, Bob and I have, and it's just beautiful. But there's been a lot of activity. Last time I was there in Bumping Lake, I'd set up a camp, met up with a few people that, let's see, Shelley Covington, Montana was actually up there, camped out. But we ended up, I brought Adam Davis up there, and we spent some time in the woods, and we heard a vocalization that, you know how when you go into the woods, the first thing you do is you turn on your camera, you turn on your audio just in case you miss something. Well, we were getting up there, and I'm setting up my tripod so I could put up the thermal imaging and the night vision goggles and everything else. Had no audio running. And while I'm setting up, we heard a vocalization that was just insane. Absolutely insane. And Adam just, did you hear that, mate? And I'm, yes, but I got nothing running. Nothing.
That's always the case, man. I've been in two situations like that, not with Bigfoot, but boy, if my equipment would have been working, you know.
Oh, man. Yeah, it was deep, heavy, just a big bad echo, and it was far away. It was just a beautiful sound, and I wish I could have captured that on audio, because that was pretty intense.
Yeah. So I was stationed also in Bremerton for a while. So I was stationed at Fort Rich up there in Alaska, and I was stationed in Bremerton. So I did a lot of, Olympic mountain walking around and camping. And I had a Jeep back then before I accidentally drove it off into Hood Canal.
Whoops.
Yeah. Yeah. Submarine. No lie. And, so, I've been all over. I did a lot of scuba diving when I was up there, though, in Prince William, or not Prince William Sound, in right outside of Bremerton, and I had such a great time up there, man. It's one of the best places in the world.
Yeah, Washington really offers a lot of just raw beauty and some really tough areas. Here's something that I used to talk about when I would give presentations. If you think about it, you can actually do the research on this, but between the city of Spokane and the city of Seattle, one end of the state to the other, since we've started flying airplanes, there's been numerous airplanes that have left Spokane with the destination of Seattle, or vice versa, Seattle headed to Spokane. And the number of airplanes that have hit the ground and have never been seen again is staggering.
Right. Yeah. And
we know it existed. We know it left here and going to this point. So somewhere in this area, it's on the ground. We know it exists, and it's not trying to run from us and escape us. We know it's there on the ground somewhere. We've never seen it. Many, many airplanes. So
yeah, Alaska's the same way.
What about Bigfoot? You think if a Bigfoot exists between Spokane and Seattle, that it could stay out of our vision? Absolutely.
I think it could. There's some really good technologies that are coming out, like eDNA.
Yep.
You can take samples of environmental areas and do DNA sampling. So that's going to be interesting if they get that refined more, because I know they're doing it. Dr. Steingass was talking about it, and they're doing it in water areas. And
wow.
Yeah, you want to know if the Kraken is in the water? Do an eDNA sample of that water and see if
look at the parts per million, though. I mean, you better have. I can't imagine something like that would be cheap to do.
No,
really minute, getting down to the.
In 100 years, cops are going to be doing it. In 100 years, we're going to be just
field kit. Oh yeah, swab this tree. Yep, he came by here.
Yep. So, and that's the thing is a lot of people don't realize how vast the United States is because we fly and it takes us very short time to get someplace. And even when you drive, it doesn't seem that far.
Yep.
But there are huge areas of land. And that was the thing when I was up in Alaska, all the native people's stories of hairy men, the Tornets.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, their history, their oral history saying they used to trade with these things. They used to, you know, kind of coexist until a few really bad things happened. And then the hairy men just disappeared. They ran away from humans. And technically, I really can't blame them.
We tend to spoil everything. We screw everything up in our path. We take whatever we want. We destroy. I wouldn't, if I was living in the forest and I didn't need man, I'd probably have nothing to do with them either.
Yeah. Dogs. I like dogs. So.
Oh, I do too.
So yeah, man, without giving anything away, maybe from some of the stuff from last season, tell us about some of the technologies you guys are using now.
Oh, wow. They had the audio locator, the sound locator, to where they could pinpoint where a sound came from out in a very, very vast span of area. Now, here's a couple interesting things. I love using the thermal imaging. Night vision goggles, I have the PVS-7s that you and I wore in the military. But you can only see so much through the PVS-7 and everything seems to be fairly flat. You could be stepping into a pit and it looks like it's flat ground.
Right.
Your perception is a little skewed. But thermal imaging will see things that you cannot see through the PVS-7s, which I really absolutely love the technology with that respect. Audio, I'd rather deal with something that I'm physically looking at and seeing, like through night vision or through thermal. If you hear something that's so far away, you can't tell what's making the sound. As interesting as it is, I wouldn't chase it down as much.
Right.
You know, I want the thing that's tangible enough and close enough that I can validate and verify, where you can't with audio, you can't with a tree knock, you can't with something that was left behind. You know, people put a lot of stock in the tree structures and the sounds and audio. And just for the record, I'm a hard sell. I'm the guy who believes in the idea that Bigfoot does exist. Never seen one. I've seen some very, very interesting and compelling evidence. I've had things happen to me and seen things that yet to explain. But I'm not putting a bag it and tag it and calling it, hey, that's definitely Bigfoot evidence. I've never done that. Never have. Right. If I do, it's because, well, it's still kicking and clawing at me.
Right. Yeah.
It's got to be something that I'm willing to put whatever reputation I have to put it on the line for it. So it'll take a bit.
Well, I know the technology, you know, is getting crazy as far as satellite technology. We got motion sensing, we got thermal imaging. I just last year I bought our Lake Patrol. I said I didn't buy. I arranged for a new boat, and in that boat I have the best FLIR that you can get for marine use.
Who makes it?
FLIR.
Oh, is it a FLIR?
Yep.
I've had a hard time with their I don't want to get into promoting and not promoting,
right?
But have you ever used Pulsar?
No. Nice.
Night and day difference.
Really?
Oh man, yes.
Wow, I'll check into it then.
Yeah,
we're buying another boat, so maybe they can look into that. But I know for what we do, our lake is 64 miles long. We got about 270 miles of shoreline, and navigating out there at night, you really have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for somebody, you're not going to find anybody unless you have a thermal imager, for sure.
And a heat trace. Oh, absolutely. That makes sense.
And you know, to go hunt. In my opinion, to go hunt Bigfoot, You need some stuff like that, because obviously, if this guy's been running around, or these guys have been running around for this amount of time, avoiding us, they have some extra technology themselves. And whether that's built-in biotechnology, like they can see thermal stuff like a snake can,
Right.
or something like that, you don't know.
The
Possibilities are there.
A bear can smell, something from such a far distance away. A hawk or an eagle has the vision that is just incredible. What if you have something like that on a creature that walks the earth, something that can actually smell, see, hear much better than we can grasp?
So, yeah, and there are snakes that hunt at night off of thermal imagery, and I mean that's what they're seeing. I'm sorry, they're going to be seeing in a different light spectrum, not so much thermal imagery, but different light spectrum. And you and I have a reptilian brain wrapped around, our mammal brains wrapped around that reptilian brain, same thing. So what if they somehow retained that ability to see in infrared, let's say?
I want some of that.
I'm pretty sure, there's some technology out there now like CRISPR that can go in and reform your DNA and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure, like in 100 years, we're going to be able to get like body parts and stuff. Cause I want an eye stalk, so I don't have to present myself around a corner. I can just send my eye stalk out to look.
Well, they have that's an eyepiece and a scope. You just roll it around the corner, and it sees what you don't have to put yourself in front of there. Yep.
Yeah. I want it growing in my eye though, and I want it to be able to like move it forward like a tentacle. That'd be awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Something flies by and hits it, and it hurts.
That's true. That's true. So tell me a little bit about this next picture. What do you imagine this next picture is going to be?
You have pictures. See, that's at Bumping Lake when Adam and myself, Bob, Shelley, and Slick. What is Rebecca Slick? There we go. Whew. I almost forgot her name, and that would have been really bad. Yep, that was when Adam Davis and I heard that audio up there. That vocalization was just insane.
That was at that location there.
Yeah, that was when we all linked together up there. It was great. What a great trip. Hey, I got a rabbit hole I want to go down.
Okay. Hey, real quick, for those of you who are watching, we're talking with Russell Acord of Travel Channel's Expedition Bigfoot. If you have any questions, go ahead and go to the comments below, type in your question, and we'll be fielding those. We'll be looking through those here in about 10 minutes or so. So put some good questions on there and we'll go. All right.
So I got a question for you.
Okay.
You're really heavy into paranormal and things that are kind of distant and out there. I am a flesh and blood guy. I think that if Bigfoot exists, it's, if you walk up and poke it with a stick, it's going to bleed. I don't think that if you walk up and poke it with a stick, it can vanish and go into a different dimension and you see it again. That's just my way of thinking. And that's kind of always how my head has worked. So let's take a trip down a different angle. Something that I've decided to get into, which I know nothing about, and I will always tell people I'm just going into this because simply curious. I'm going to do something with a friend of mine, Dr. Rebecca Foster. I don't know if you've heard of her. I don't know her. She is a clairvoyant medium that has been, when I met her, I thought I said, okay, so tell me a little bit, I walk in with almost this attitude, like, you got to sell me on this because I'm not buying it. You can be pretty vague and kind of touch everybody's life and sound like you're really there. So she sat down and she wouldn't even look at me. She looked at the floor in front of me or out of the crowd and just kind of did what she called a reading. She was just kind of picking up on my vibe. And the things that she told me were not vague and not kind of loosely fitting. When you're doing an application, you check mail, don't you? No, it was some really pinpointed stuff and stuff that She even touched on some things in my military world and personally, that literally you would literally have to have been in my shirt pocket to know the things that she said to me. So she had my attention. I thought, okay, that's pretty interesting. So I'll listen. Became pretty good friends with her, and I've always been friends with Jeff Byer. So we're gonna start doing a little bit of thing on Facebook so that I get to go along with her while she does some of these readings. So it's really kind of cool. But I have questions about that, and for you, I know that you do a lot of this kind of research, and being blunt, that's how you and I will always talk. Just be blunt and throw it out there.
Absolutely.
Am I putting myself in a spot where, am I opening myself up to energy or entities that I don't want to by going on these things, or is it something where I want to be along to witness and to see it for myself? I'm the skeptic.
Sure.
I'm the guy that says, so you say you saw something, huh? I want to see it for myself. So am I putting myself in a spot where being a skeptic, but being careful?
Right.
Tell me what because this is not my wheelhouse at all.
Sure. And my wheelhouse is research and investigation. So it doesn't matter whether it's a insurance fraud case or a Bigfoot case.
Right.
I'm going to bring in a certain set of skills and tools and my training and experience to try to figure it out.
Sure.
Understanding both of that, you have scientific method, which a lot of people try to bang in, round peg square hole when we're talking about philosophy. And on the philosophy side of it, most responsible mediums, most responsible spiritualists will tell you that if you're messing with that stuff, there's the potential that, something could come through, something that's not necessarily good. But that's why you look for someone who's been doing this for a long time, a medium, a clairvoyant, a psychic, whatever you want to call them. And you look at their process, and somebody who's been doing it for 20 years and has a lot of experience under their belt on, prepping themselves before they open this theoretical or this actual world, whichever that is, and communicating through that. The theory is something could get through that. So the individual who's doing it needs to have some sort of protections that they do before, during, and also after. In other words, you're opening the door and you're closing the door. That's what Rosemary Ellen Guiley would say. Okay. Is she would, prep herself before she open the door. Don't stand in the doorway, either jump in the pool or get out, one of the two. And take care of your stuff and then come back out and close that doorway. So that's the theory behind it. And, you said you're a skeptic, and a lot of people look at that word as something that's bad. Well, skeptic is someplace between a true believer that doesn't require any evidence or anything. They're just going to believe that a certain thing happens. Right. And a cynic that doesn't believe in anything. This is just a big bang and we evolved out of a bunch of mud and went to McDonald's and died. And that's it. So a skeptic has that little range in between that true believer and that cynic. And we move further toward true believer the more evidence we pick up. Okay. So yeah, man, if you're going to do something like that, which I think is very interesting, to try that experiment, and see what will happen. I've done it in cases that I've worked. Whenever I've worked a case that I've talked to everybody involved, I've looked at all the evidence, I've looked at all the circumstances, and I come up with nothing. How's it going to hurt to bring a psychic in and see what they say? If nothing else, they think differently than we do, and they might lead us down a trail that might solve the case. So
right. Well, it's like So I've done interviews with Bob Gimlin. I've also done interviews with Bob Hieronymus. And you know, the conflict between Bob Hieronymus says that he's the guy that was wearing a suit when they filmed the Bigfoot.
Right.
So when I talked to Bob Gimlin before I did the interview, I said, Bob, the reason I want to talk to Bob Hieronymus, and I'm going to film it, and I'm going to put all this stuff together on the same reel, is because nobody is going to, of clear mind, decide a court case of any kind without seeing both sides of the story. You have to see all the evidence and as much as you can gather and make your own assessment. And I'm not here to sell Bob's Hieronymus story. I'm not here to sell Bob Gimlin's story. I want you to hear both stories, process it. You'll see the holes. Trust me. I gave Bob Hieronymus his opportunity to speak as freely as he wanted to, and he had a lot to say. But being able to see both sides of it and listen, it'll be an easy. For me, it was easy as much as I didn't want to look at either side. I literally looked at, pros and cons on both sides. Does this make sense? Could this have happened? Is there a space where this could have been BS? Is there a space where this could have been BS? So when it's all put together, you'll see what I mean. It was very fascinating to talk to the both of them in that, minute level detail. It was great.
Right.
So,
well, and it's no different. I hate to bring up an analogy, but it's no different than a family violence situation as a cop. You go in, she says one thing, he says something else. You got to go off of, the evidence. People say, well, I got an instinct, it's whatever.
Right.
Okay. You got an instinct. Remember, store that in the back of your head. What are the facts that you have?
Right.
And what makes sense? It's one of those things in the paranormal world is an alien abduction situation. And you automatically go to, it was an alien abduction, as opposed to, was this person on drugs? Was this person, mentally ill? Was this person, something else? You have to eliminate all the naturally occurring things. Have you seen that video of the bear walking through the people's backyards, and he's walking on his rear
hind legs? Yeah.
Yeah, he's walking everywhere like that. He's like a circus bear. He's incredible. But did you see why he was doing it?
There was something physically wrong with him.
Yes.
But it was
he had a hurt paw, I think, because when he went down on all fours, he tucked that paw up.
Wow.
And he kind of hopped a little bit, sniffed around, then stood back up, and he was going to get his picnic basket. It was incredible.
Yogi.
Yeah, it was incredible.
That's funny.
So hey, Brad Blair of Michigan Paracon has
I know that guy. I've talked to him.
Yeah, Brad has a question. Have you ever been on a Bigfoot hunt and encountered evidence of a different woodland cryptid such as Dogman or the Pukwudgie?
I have not. I very seldom tell this story, so I'm going to give you my Bigfoot story, or my very, very compelling evidence story. And I've always I don't like telling this because I can't say. I'll tell you right now, just for record's sake, I'm not saying it was Bigfoot. I'm not. I will never say there was Bigfoot. But I was in the Bitterroot Mountains of Montana, and I don't know if you read my books, but my books are based out of Kootenai Mountain area. So I was on the Kootenai side of the trailhead, and I got some pretty good elevation on me. And I'm looking across down the valley where the water was and back up the other side, and there was a rock slide over there. Now I'm probably, I'd say, no more than 6 or 7 miles back off this trail. So I wasn't too far from the trailhead. You've got to understand that you have a county road that stops abruptly at the forest edge 7 miles away. So there are vehicles 7 miles away from where I was at, but it's a hell of a hike to get to where I was and then up the other side. So I'm looking across this vast expanse, and I look on the other side of the mountain, and I'm looking at this rock slide because I heard something. It sounded like a rock shifting on another rock, but it was so far away, So I'm watching this rock slide, and I watched what the only way I can explain it is it looked like a guy in a ghillie suit, a sniper suit. There was no weapons, no drag bag with a weapon behind him. There was nothing in the hands of this thing. It was just full on ghillie suit with the head, the hands, the feet, from top to bottom. And you know how when you build those things, they're raw, or they're more canvas in the inner knees, the inner thighs and knees, so that when you're stalking and you lay down, you can you're not dragging all of your burlap off of it.
Right.
But this didn't have that. This was burlap, what appeared to be burlap hanging on all pieces of this body. And this thing made its way meticulously across the rock slide. I only heard the one rock slide once, which caught my eye. And I looked across this thing, and I would say it was a few hundred yards away from me. And I'm trying to look at it with my binoculars. It was that far away. There was not enough time or detail to look at this thing, but it made its way across the rest of the rocks and into the tree line. I never saw it again. So
yeah, how far away did you say it was?
Oh, you gotta think of, as the bird flies, it was a good quarter mile, maybe further.
Yeah.
Because the valley drops straight down, and there's a creek, and then it comes back the other side. Yeah,
well, I know this, and you know this. I've been on. I don't have real world explanation. A little bit law enforcement explanation for it, where you're doing some surveillance or you're doing a patrol.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear people for miles.
Absolutely.
And if they're wearing cologne, I can smell it. I can smell. Yeah, cigarettes. Oh, absolutely.
For miles.
And so, if they're this smart and this elusive, they have to know, as far as distance and stuff like that. But that's cool, man. There was a guy in Montana that was playing chicken with cars like he was Bigfoot wearing a ghillie suit, and the car got him.
That was up by Columbia Falls and Kalispell area. I remember when that happened.
Yeah. It was like his friend said, "Oh yeah, I used to do that all the time." I'm like, "Oh man, how good do you get there?" Hey, Bobby Ward, he's a friend of mine from Washington, and he is absolutely unstable and completely entertaining. He should go on this thing with him. Hey, Bobby, how's it going, man?
As long as we can outrun him, he can come.
I cannot outrun Bobby. Bobby is the man when it comes to running. Oh, he's in really good shape. Hey, yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be the one that gets eaten. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So Liz from the UK, as a medium, if they're doing their job, they would offer protection to those with them who want it. Okay. So if you're dealing with somebody like that.
Yeah, Dr. Foster has assured me that was what she would do. There is before you step through the threshold of a building, she has methods that before she allows anybody to follow in through behind her while she's there. And then when she leaves, she does not grant permission for anything to come with her or that sort of thing. She said that because I have to ask every question in the book, but it's something that I truly am not familiar with. So that's why I figured I'd ask you as well. Well, thank you, Liz. I appreciate that.
So he's not coming with us. He can run. He can run too fast. We need to find somebody slower than me.
Slower. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And it better not be me.
So
I get up doing my miles every morning, so I think I'm okay.
I have not. Matter of fact, I ate 6 White Castle cheeseburgers last night.
I am eating my body weight in junk food since I've been on this thing. It's ridiculous.
I know.
Shoes in a week, and I'm still wearing them.
So, other than Expedition Bigfoot, do you have any like research plans or anything? You got any books that you're, anything that's coming up that you want to get out there?
Yeah, I'm working on my 3rd book. I did the first one, Footprints of a Legend. Bigfoot and the Tripwire. The last book is the third of a trilogy. I've been working on that during this pandemic, and it's going to be a really good read. But the rabbit hole, I don't know how much time we have left on this thing. But
We have 10 minutes.
we have no time to get into this conversation because it's pretty heavy.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, man.
I don't mind going over if you don't mind going over.
Oh, I told you I was yours for the night. So, I mean, prom dress on. Come on.
Nice.
So I work in the nuclear industry. So one of the things that I really am so conscious and aware of is when you have radiation or contamination, you have to have time, distance, and barrier to protect you from whatever the elements are that could do damage to the human body. So I found a parallel that really, really intrigues me. So let's forget the nuclear talk just for a second. And I'm going to ask you something. Maybe you know a little bit about this. The pyramids. I remember reading it, I meant to do this research before I got on this thing with you so that we could actually have the conversation with some bit of intellectual capacity. There's a pyramid that I don't know if it's King Tut's tomb or if it's a pyramid where there's supposed to be this incredible bounty that is, down one of these hallways or in the rocks.
Right.
They said that if a man goes into this area, he will certainly die. And there's been people that have actually tried to go in and they certainly die. So what is it in this pyramid that would be literally, if you came in contact with it or came in within the same airspace, would kill you like that? What would be that?
There's been several, and during the turn of the last century, there were several people that were killed when they went in. And you think about it. First thing you do when you do an investigation is you go to the knowns, right? What is known, and we eliminate that. And back then, they didn't have a lot of really good evidence, especially forensic evidence recovery, skills. So we don't know whether maybe it was some sort of bacterium. I mean, you're going into a closed space,
right?
That's been closed for thousands of years, and it's stacked with a bunch of dead bodies. Can you see anything happening bad?
No, I mean, you can. So if I go into when I get into the caves and stuff, I don't get into the caves where these people, the cavers that will wiggle their way into a really, really tiny, tight space, and I get claustrophobic just watching them. I don't do that. There's no way. But I do watch. So some of the things that I would wear on my body are the 4 gas monitors. Right. To make sure that you're not getting into a carbon monoxide area or a low oxygen level. So you put that hose right there by your face in your breathing zone, and it'll alert you immediately if anything that you're getting into has not enough oxygen to sustain human life, or if there's something in that airspace that will damage you. So I thought about that, and and the one thing that I remember, because I asked that question, I said, is there just poison in the air? Is there something or lack of oxygen? Is that what's taking these guys out? And allegedly, the oxygen levels and the breathing air was safe for human occupancy. So this is why I went down this rabbit hole, and I thought, okay, if the air is okay to breathe, but if you go through this threshold and you die, what are the symptoms of the human body that took it out? Is it, I would love to see what the autopsy said. Is it something that came into the lungs? Is it something that the body came in contact with? Because I work in how wide are the walls, the stone walls of a pyramid? I mean, you're talking 5, 6, 10 feet thick.
Oh yeah.
So in my radiation world where I work at in this industry, our concrete walls are 5.5 feet thick, if not thicker. That is considered a decent barrier to protect the human body from the radiation beyond the wall. So I started seeing, okay, so these pyramid walls are 5+ feet thick of stone, and we're making nuclear buildings that are 5+ feet thick in concrete.
Right.
Is there a parallel?
There might be. There's a lot of ancient alien theorists that believe that the pyramids were created for something differently. I just want you to know you're talking with a guy, probably one of the only people that have ever been criminally trespassed out of the Great Pyramid of Giza. I was. Yeah. It was during prayer hour, and I'm down by the Sphinx trying to get some pictures, and there's nobody out on the street. And this Bedouin came up, this desert person came up and said, "Do you want me to take a picture of you with the Sphinx?" And I said, "Yeah." So I gave him the camera. He took a picture, and then he says $5.
Oh, but at least he gave the camera back.
Well, after I gave him $5, and then he said, "Have you ever been in the pyramid?" I said, "No." He goes, "I can give you a tour of the pyramid." I said, "Okay." He says $20, and I thought, $20? This is 1985 money.
Oh.
So $20, but I'm a guy from Texas. I never thought I'd be here at the pyramid. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I give him $20. He takes me over there. We go around the little roped area. We go through Robbers Tunnel, which you couldn't get into the main gallery because the walls were so thick. So the burglars, we call them robbers, dug through that soft limestone around the granite and got back into the grand gallery, which leads you up to the King's Chamber. And this is an old man. And we start going up the stairs, and it's a long way. So I said, "Hey, you don't have to go up if you don't want to." "Well, what's up there?" He says, "It's just a King's Chamber." I said, "You can stay here if you want to." He goes, "Thank you very much." He had pretty good English. So I go up and I hang out in the King's Chamber by myself. I'm like 20 years old, 19 or 20 years old, something, right? And so I'm trying to have my metaphysical experience in the King's Chamber because this, I grew up in the 1970s with all the pyramid power and all that.
Sure.
And I'm in there and I sit on the floor. I'm in there for about 30 minutes. I finally went, "Well, okay, I don't know." And I come back down the stairs, and there's a guy in all white with a black belt and a black holster. And he says, "Are you alone?" And I said, "Yeah." And he asked me again, "Are you alone?" I said, "Yes, I'm alone." And I met him down there. He goes, "How did you get in the pyramid?" And I said, "A guy let it." He said, "The pyramid is closed." So it was just a street person that, we just snuck in. We were burglaring.
But he knew his way around. That's good. He made $30. You got 30 minutes in the King's Chamber.
So he told me, "Do not come back." I'm like, "Okay, all right." Hopefully I don't have my picture up there or something next time I go.
Oh, that's a great story, though.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was a stupid story, but there you go.
I saw something cruise by infrasound.
Yeah, infrasound.
Okay, infrasound. And you'd think that in these pyramids, especially like we had talked about earlier with our technology that we have, to be able to get inside there with, a little robot or a drone or something to advance ahead and see what the oxygen levels were, what if there was anything in the area in that space, or if there was radiation. I mean, radiation is the one thing that doesn't have a smell. You can't see it. But when you come in contact with it, it is bad.
Well, that would make more sense, and I'm sure they didn't have any thing to detect any kind of radiation. That would make more sense. But once again, you got to go back to, like you said, the autopsy. Were these radiation burns? Do they have radiation sickness? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, I told you.
I had a friend of mine that, not that I've ever done this. He used to do base jumping and go down to Florida and climb those radio towers. And he went all the way to the top, I don't know, like 1,700 feet or something, and stood up by what's called the stinger, the actual antenna. Well, it's 100,000 watts or whatever coming out of there. Yeah. He was in the hospital for 3 months.
Oh, man.
It killed all the bacteria in his gut. He almost died.
But the fact that he made it to the ground.
Incredible.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you're obviously going to make it to the ground, but at least he made it to the ground still alive.
Good point. Good point.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that just that scares the crap out of me. I see these guys doing these walking the parapet wall on these skyscraper buildings or out across the mast of one of those sky cranes, and they're
Yeah.
getting their picture and they're standing on one foot and they're leaning out and I'm thinking that's just
Well, sooner or later, those people die. So,
yeah,
you know,
the odds definitely will eventually catch up. And you don't see those pictures. And that's what people need to do is you see the pictures, these guys trying to glorify it. What you
right.
need to take that same guy's website and say, this was him 3 months ago. This is what we found of him through the cracks in the concrete. Don't be stupid.
So you're not only a soldier, you're not only work in the nuclear industry, you're a Bigfoot researcher, you're a novelist. Also, I got to ask you about Man versus Legend. You're the producer for that, right? Or one of the producers?
Executive producer, yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us anything about that?
When that show comes out, when you guys can actually get it, so they did the first show, Something in the Woods.
Right.
David Ford did the show, Something in the Woods, and I thought that was a pretty dang good show. They represented well. It was a lot of fun. When they did Man versus Legend, they took a lot more time with it. The shots that they got, the actors in the show, it actually watches much more like a cinematic film. It's very they learned a lot from their first film. So if you get a chance, when it's becomes available, I would recommend getting your hands on that one. That is actually a good film, and there's some little twists that come along the way that I think are just really pretty cool. But it's well put together film. I've actually seen it, and I can't confirm or deny that I've seen it from front to finish, but I've heard that it's a really good show.
So are you do you have any conferences actually scheduled? Because just about everything I was involved in has canceled or been rescheduled. So you got anything coming up?
We had a show that we were supposed to do in Tennessee, and we cannot do it. Bob is not prepared to travel that early, and that's towards the end of July, I believe. There's one coming up at the end of August, and that is still. I literally have to take it all the way up to a month prior to, and sit down with Bob and Bob's wife, and get confirmation that he can still go, because I think that's the one that I believe Brad puts on.
Yeah, Michigan Paracon. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yep. Now I had to cancel mine. Mine is September over Labor Day weekend. And the reason I canceled it is there were several factors I had to really consider. One is this was my biggest year. You will not believe how many tickets I had already had sold. And instead of trying to push everybody and say, hey, I'll hang on to your tickets, we'll do it next year, I refunded every last individual.
Good for you.
Every single ticket, every single table. In fact, I even had a couple sponsors that had sponsored me money that I'd spent some of it to get, deposits and some other things down. I gave everybody every single dime back, because I think that that's not my money. That does not belong to me. I didn't want to do a virtual conference, because I think you and I can get on here and talk to everybody all day long. But people go to a conference because they want to look you in the eye. They want to get a picture with you. They want to get an autograph. So I couldn't, in good conscience, do it any other way. I figured I will give everyone their money back, especially now because people have not been working. It's been a financially difficult time. So I thought, give them their money back. Let them decide next year if they want to reinvest their money and come back out to the conference or not. But I'm not going to hold your money hostage between now and a year from now. So I got that handled. Every single refund has gone through. Everything is done. So I'm glad about that. But I didn't want to put people in that same space in September and have our governor say, well, you can't have more than 100 people in the room, when I have close to 2,000 people that are supposed to be in the building. So
yeah, and that's hard to do, man. So many.
Yeah.
So many of these conferences are, shoestring budget, and they get some money in. It's like, oh, let's get a bigger space. Let's do this. And they end up spending some of it. And it's really hard to get that.
I'm pretty down under on this one, but it's the risk you take.
I can imagine. Man, we've gone. What are we at? Hour 5. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of other questions I never got to, but
hey, like I said, I'm here. If you want to shut it down and we'll pick it up another day, or if you want to keep trucking, like I said, if you're good, I'm good.
Okay, well, I'm good then. So, what would you like to see? Well, I can't. That wouldn't be good. I was going to say, what would you like to see in the next evolution of Bigfoot hunting? Well, we don't want to share that information because somebody else could go out and do it. But I really like the idea of, just making sure that your people are using their technology as best as they can and making sense of it. Do you remember when the skyfish or the flying rods phenomenon happened a few years ago?
Is that's the thing that looked like a cigar going through the sky?
Yeah. So in the 90s, when that first started coming out, there for a couple of days, man, I was like, this is amazing. There's these little animals that are so fast that, we don't even see them when they fly by. And then come to find out that there's a whole bunch of people who have, security cameras that don't operate on HD. And, that's nothing more than a moth batting its wings 7 times going through the air. And it makes it look like it's this long thing. And that's the danger of people who use a specific type of technology that have no training in it. Right. They go and buy a piece of equipment and whatever it does, they're like amazed by it. Sure. But it's very important that you understand that kind of stuff.
I had a very interesting conversation with a friend of mine from Utah, and he was talking about, so you and I, we can see in a certain scope. Okay. So you've got this scope that's this wide and we're only seeing this much of it. Over here is X-ray, over here is infrared. So we have all these different colors and varieties of things that are not within our ability to see with our eyes. But if we get the technology, throw an IR light on it with a pair of night vision goggles, you can see in total darkness. Or if you've got somebody throwing a heat trace out in the field, you use the right lenses and the right equipment, and you can see hot versus cold out there. So he did make a very compelling point when he said, have you ever been sitting there at your computer just typing away or doing just about anything, and out of the corner of your eye, you think you see something move and you turn and you look and there's nothing to see? Oh yeah. Or a flash of light or just something that looked like it moved in the room with you. And I said, yeah, you see that all the time. He said, let's just play with this for a second. He said, the way the eye is made with the shell over top of it, the cornea, let's just say, I'm going to butcher this because I'm not an eye.
You're right. You're right. My wife knows all about that. So I hear it. Yeah. It's cornea.
Probably rolling her eyes at me right now. Thinking, but the lens over top of the eye, where it's thick and thin, he said, what if periodically that's just the right thickness or thinness of your lens over the eye, that you get a glimpse of those colors that we can't see. Right. Do you have any idea what might be in the tree line or right in the same space with you that you can't see because the color does not, you can't see it with the technology or with our genetics. We just can't. Well, and a lot of people don't realize how the eye works. The eye is not a lens to the brain. The eye is an organ that picks up on the electromagnetic spectrum. And then it translates that back to the back of your brain. The back of your brain has to reform what makes sense to it Translate it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have your image. So, there's always been that, and you kind of pointed toward this a while ago and you steered away from it. But there's those believers that maybe Bigfoot is a time traveler.
Right.
Maybe Bigfoot is a UFO. Chewbacca, maybe he came down and he's another species from another planet. Maybe he's a shapeshifter. Maybe he is a dimensional being that travels from dimension to dimension.
Right.
Or maybe he's just a biological thing that is growing like the rest of us. But you're absolutely right. I've had that. I've had that movement outside, and in real dark places, you start getting all these images because your body is trying to protect yourself. You're going to have that fight or flight or whatever it is.
Right.
So
that's always intrigued me after that conversation. I've never been able to kind of shake it, thinking that they're not necessarily sitting here in the room with me, that there's something standing here beside me.
Right.
You hear some Bigfooters will make a reference of cloaking or camouflaging in with the elements or transparency, that sort of thing. And I did see a video a few years back of something that went up a tree that looked straight out of a TV show. It was, but it wasn't. It was off of a GoPro, and something went from right to left and straight up a tree, and it looked like a water mark that went the wrong way. It was transparent and squiggly, and it distorted the things behind it.
Wow.
It was very, very quick and rapid moving, and I thought that was from just a chip off of a GoPro, and they reacted to it as it was happening. So it's not like, hey,
okay.
And it moved, and I thought that was real interesting.
Yeah.
And catching it on film like that was just really twisted. I thought that was just whatever it was just interesting.
Hey, and for what it's worth, Anne and Kat get the furthest away award for Detective Diaries. They're out of Australia.
G'day.
So yeah, it's great seeing them on there. Kat watched quite a few of these. But yeah, man, that's something that, when you're looking for something, you have to set your search parameters, let's say on a computer, or your technology or your method based on what you anticipate you're going to find.
Right.
We don't even know the questions not to ask. We're sitting back going, okay, if I'm looking for just a hairy beast running around out here, thermal imagery, motion sensing, maybe some satellite imagery, good night vision, that's what I'm looking for. But what if it is something else? I tend to believe that if Bigfoot exists, it's a biological creature, and he's figured out a way to hide his poop, because we haven't found that yet. And that's going to be good once we do that. Yeah. You ever have any people, talk to you as far as skeptics that are, why don't we have poop, hair? We have all this secondary evidence, scratches, piles of debris, footprints. Is stuff on Bigfoot not sloughing off for us to find?
I have a interesting response to that, because the reason we wouldn't find a body, I've been in the woods my whole life. I've never seen the body of a mountain lion or the body of a bear. And generally, if they're going to pass, they'll find the deepest, darkest spot and, just let nature take its course, and you're not going to find it. As far as excrement goes, every animal seems to leave something like that behind. Maybe it's just one of those things where
don't do it. Don't do it.
I can't look over the desk anymore because
So are you saying he could have some sort of mastication disorder that he needs to recycle, or what?
Well, you and I, we go to use the bathroom,
Yep.
I mean, we don't live in LA, so we don't have to use the sidewalks. We actually go use our bathroom.
Or San Francisco.
Amen. So we have that cycle of we go where we know we can. We go where we know that everything is okay and we have our privacy.
We're safe. We go to our safe place. And
so I would think maybe they're the same way. Maybe they cycle that way.
I don't want to be surprised when I'm doing that. So I'm pretty sure that I can cover my stuff.
There you go. We're going to dig a little trench, put it behind us.
Leaving that to Liz. You can answer that one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The thing is we don't always get thermal imaging. We don't always get night vision. And I've always thought if you read, I'm not here to sell books. So one of my theories that I have always believed in is subterranean, using volcano tube, the tunnels, or using caves, or putting enough distance of some mass material between us and them to where you can't pick them up on thermal imaging. At nighttime, if they're moving at nighttime and we're picking them up on thermal imaging, I think that's amazing. Because during Expedition Bigfoot, I caught something on thermal imaging that to date, I'm not going to tell you it was a buffalo, a cow, a cougar, or a Bigfoot. I have no idea what it was, but it was very, very wildly odd to have something that big, and it was larger, much larger than me, show up and put up that big of a heat trace and then simply go away and not leave a trace behind. So to me, where something that hot can disappear to in an open field with no caves, nothing else, that's got me really, really curious. That was actually a very, very that just blew me away, because I don't have an explanation for that. I'd rather find out later, hey, it was a cow, or that way you can kind of just wrap your head around it. It wasn't a cow. It couldn't have been a cow.
One time I thought a cow was a demon, but that's a different story. I'll have to share that with you sometime.
I've been married 4 times, right?
I had no idea.
So speaking of demons, I used to say that I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God or the devil until I was actually married to the devil. Yeah. So yeah, that's bad joke. Sorry. But that thermal imaging was really wild as far as what it was, where it went. Absolutely clueless as to where it went, and there was no footprints. And when we went out and looked at the ground the next day in broad daylight, you could stomp all over the place, and there was no way even your boots were leaving a track. It was just really, it was like the perfect storm of how could you keep yourself hidden and make your evidence disappear. That was it. I couldn't find anything. It was disturbing.
So, and there's areas like the gorge in Oregon. Have you ever been along the Columbia River there?
Yes, I have.
Absolutely one of the most spectacular, beautiful places I've ever been.
Yeah.
The ground is hard out there. You're going to have to be a really good tracker. You're going to have to be an expert tracker to be able to track anything in that area, unless it has a hoof. If it has a hoof,
it'll dig in a little bit.
Right.
Sure.
But if you have a foot, something, that Dr. Steingast, when she was on, was talking about, she's done quite a bit of research on mermaids, and there's some pretty fascinating accounts of mermaids, back to the 1600s, that sort of stuff. Yeah. But from her marine biology background, her PhD in marine biology, she said that there's a couple of things that you have to have if you're going to be in the water for any amount of time. You're going to have to be obese, and you're going to have very short limbs. And the reason that you're going to have to be that way is to maintain your body temperature, because water sucks the temperature out of your body. And so you go hypothermic, unless you develop an evolutionary process of having hair like otters do, sea otters and river otters and that sort of thing. So have you ever thought about, maybe that's one of the reasons that they're able to transit areas, because why couldn't they get in the water? I would say that they would probably stay pretty warm, as hairy as they are reported to be.
So getting back to what I saw in Montana, that thing that walked across a rock slide. Let's just pretend, and I'm going to say, disclaimer, let's pretend for a second that was a legitimate, real Bigfoot cutting across a rock slide. The hair on that thing that covered its entire body, hands, feet, knees, chest, back, everything. That's a lot of drag in the water, but it's also a great way to keep the body temperature, stabilized in a cold environment.
Right.
So, like you said, with the hair.
Well, I had planned all these things. If I was going to go and look for, like if I had money, if I had all the money I needed, I could get into an area almost undetected, I believe.
I'll donate $1.
Okay, well, I appreciate that,
Right there.
and I will collect that from you.
Okay.
And so, like with I had thought about Portlock. I'm like, man, I would really like to enter from across the bay and actually scuba dive in.
Oh.
Yeah, and then be just really stealthy and go in. Of course, that's probably one of the best ways we could find multiple bear. For crawling around in a wet in a ghillie suit.
Yeah, low crawling and wet ghillie suit. There we go. Let's try that.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, it's another thing. I hear people. It's funny in the paranormal realm. If somebody does experiments outside the box, people will say, well, they need to be doing experiments like I'm doing. I'm the right way. Well, have you found it? Whatever you're looking for.
Yeah.
So if you don't have, a ghost in a jar and say, this is how I did it.
Right.
We need experimentation. We need the Ouija board. We need cards. We need mediums. We need technology. We need all that stuff in order to try to identify what in the world's going on. And, more often than not, legend theory becomes science, right?
Yeah.
A perfect example is the Kraken. Man, there are stories upon stories of sailors seeing giant squid.
Right.
And everybody blew them off. Says, it's just a myth. That's just a myth. No, it's not. They're big and they're vicious.
Yeah.
So, I think it's important that you not only have cops that like writing tickets, but cops that like exploring the woods, and cops that like looking under bridges, and cops that like going into stores and talking to people. You need a diverse group of researchers in order to, cover as much area as you can. But
yeah, I think we should, instead of getting a boat, we should fast rope.
The helicopter's we're gonna have to halo in. That's what we're gonna have to do.
Let's do it.
That's what we're gonna have to do. I'm gonna have to start doing some squats. My legs aren't as strong as they used to be, but I'm ready to go. I have the hookup. We can get recertified real quick and be ready to go.
Oh man, I got to come back east and spend some time with you. I think we could get in a whole lot of trouble together.
Come down to Texas. Supposedly we have a lot of Bigfoots out there. Is it Big Feet or Bigfoots?
I think it's just Bigfoot. It's like elk. You don't say elks or deers. It's just elk, Bigfoot.
Well, there's a lot of belief that in the piney woods of Texas that there's some out there, and there's some pretty large areas, especially over near Louisiana. There's a lot of areas that humans don't go into just because of the predators. The alligator and all that.
Right. Yeah, I pass on the gators. you can have those, but you know,
So
I'll arm myself and deal with bear, but not gators. I don't like gators.
have you spent any time in Alaska?
I have. We used to, Dad, when I was growing up, Dad and I would fly into McGrath,
Yep.
or up into Willow, and then we'd have the little pilot, what do you call them? The little small airplanes that'll take you all over the place. It's just like getting a taxi cab out there.
Yep. It's like an Uber in Alaska. Yep.
Yep. We'd go up to Level Island or out past McGrath, and that's how we would actually feed our families, because we'd go up and get either a moose or something and bring all the meat back. We had this conversation earlier. I don't buy into the people that hunt because they want to put horns on their wall.
Yeah.
I didn't care if it had the smallest horns on the planet. If I had a legal moose that I knew would feed our family for another year, we had 7 kids in our family. That was the objective. So that was just, I love Alaska. It's just wild and untamed and just beautiful.
Well, Ken Larson chimed in. Great show so far. And the reason I bring him up is he's our connection. He's, he's got all the parachutes we need, aircraft, the whole deal. So he could actually get us on location, maybe.
Ken, find us on Facebook. My Facebook page would be Sage Acord, SAGE. Find me. I'd like to be able to have contact with you if that's all right.
Yeah, he's with the 82nd Airborne Division demonstration team.
Excellent.
They just did the D-Day jump over there out of C-47s and all that.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Army, your door. Go, go, go.
Right. So I keep wanting to bring up, where's let's put it this way. Where's a location that you would like to go that Travel Channel isn't going to pay for? Is there such a thing?
The Himalayas would be awesome. I'd love to go to, Adam and I have talked about doing going into Congo or Sumatra. I'd love to get into that. Really, I know that there's a lot of danger involved in that kind of stuff, but so Travel Channel, I hope, I wish it would turn out that we would get another season. I would. Everybody has that same dream, you get one season and it's just really exciting. But everything got pushed into reverse. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's being canceled and pulled back and saying no to and everything else. And if I had a chance to go anywhere on the planet and could do it any way I wanted to, I would. I'd get up into either some really, really heavy duty Yukon territory and drop in, have an airplane drop me in way, way back in, or up into Alaska and get dropped and work my way back to civilization, but just go in as deep as you could. So that way you only have to fight one way, not getting out there and getting back.
Well, right. I mean, if they're that elusive to begin with, going out there with a truck or going out there with a helicopter.
Yeah.
I mean, I know to avoid that. So, if this individual or these individuals are that elusive, then you got to sneak up on them. That's it. And that's the problem with Alaska is when I was up there, I was with the 5th of the 327th and Charlie Company out of Fort Rich. And it's the only airborne unit, and they got some of them got selected to go climb Mount McKinley, right?
Oh.
And I had only been there a couple of months, but I was a pretty good rock climber. My brothers taught me how to rock climb, and I was pretty accomplished rock climber at that point. And they didn't choose me to go because I just got there, and it's a seniority thing. And I was really mad. So I took 2 weeks leave, and I went up to Denali and I soloed the cathedrals that kind of go around Mount McKinley right up there. So it took me a couple of days to get up on the ridge, and I just did the ridge line all the way around. Real bad idea. As I'm sitting there one day on this ridge line watching this sow and her 2 cubs, some bear, down there fishing. And, they say, well, a bear can't see very far. Well, I'm telling you right now, when she picked up my scent, she turned and looked right at me.
Oh, yeah.
And started coming up the hill. And I was a good 300 probably 300 yards away from her and about 150 yards away from the summit. And man, I started scrambling and I ended up dumping my whole food sack and everything. I had my food sack on top of my rucksack. And so I took my food sack, unzipped it, and tossed all my food everywhere and took off running. Yep. And, I was running at an angle on the back side, and she gave up and turned around and ate my food. But it took me 3 days to get back to the ranger station with, very little to eat. So
it's amazing how fast they can run as fast uphill as they can downhill. And they cover that ground so quick. I've seen this. Yeah. It's been all over the internet where this cow, a cow. There was a cow in a tree. No, a black bear was up in the top of this tree, and a brown bear would literally run up the tree and charge it, and then come back down the tree, and then it would get ticked off again and run up that tree, and then getting up that tree as fast as it could run on level ground. It's just
incredible. Insane. You hear about this stuff and you hear the stories of really stupid young people that think they can go out in the wilderness and live off the land in Alaska. It ain't happening. You can't do it without a whole bunch of lard, a whole bunch of beans, and something to keep you from getting scurvy, because once that snow hits and everything freezes up, man, you're done for a while.
Yeah. And an incredible food supply and water source.
Yep. And bear are very protective of, their food and their water.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was one of those terrifying moments that I learned a lot from.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah. So, hey man, it's been an hour and 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and wrap it here. And I would love to talk with you some more on some specific things that we weren't able to get to.
Yep.
But I'm going to throw it up here one more time. Expedition Bigfoot. Everybody keep your fingers crossed that we're going to see a second season on that. I know there's a lot of people out there that want it. I love the fact that you guys stirred up controversy.
Oh,
I love that. Right?
Yeah.
Y'all were like, everybody's in the pool doing the same thing, and you're on the high dive and did a cannonball right in the middle of everybody.
Yeah.
And no, it's beautiful, man. And anybody that's threatened by that, obviously they don't understand how science works, how exploration works.
Right.
And we need guys like you. So anyway, tell everybody where you can be found and anything that's coming up or anything, your books, where we get your books and stuff.
A great way to find everything that I have going on is a website called russellacord.com, RUSSELLACORD.com. On there, you'll find my books. You'll find another website called Corridor 13. And, we had talked a little bit about the Loch Ness Monster and mermaids, that sort of thing. I've got a guy on Corridor 13 that is from Britain, Andy McGrath. And if you get a chance, look at his resume. That guy is really incredible with that kind of cryptid stuff. So have a look at him. Actually, everybody on Corridor 13, but easy to find, russellacord.com. I have books, I have website, I have fun. And I am grateful that you brought me on the show, Greg.
Yeah, man. I would love to have you back on here maybe in a month or so. After we figure out what's going to happen with all of this craziness that we're having to deal with, and legit, not legit, I don't know, but it's definitely changed a whole lot of ways we do stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll message you and we'll figure out maybe a time for that Alaska trip, because I don't need a good place to stay. So I'm real cheap.
Yeah, me too. If I got a place to launch a sleeping bag, I'm golden.
I'm good.
I hope your buddy Ken gets hold of me. I'd like to talk to him. He sounds like
and Ken will. He's a good dude. As a matter of fact, I'm having lunch with him. He's up in Dallas. He's actually he's a professional. He's an EMT paramedic. He's a skydiver. He does the fire rescue out at the racetracks. He does aerial search and rescue for the federal government and government. He's a high speed dude, and I value his knowledge and friendship. So I'll get him in touch with you.
Does he still take people up skydiving?
Oh yeah, you bet. Yeah, he can. He can get us recalled real quick.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on, man. And
Sure.
I'll be in touch, and hopefully we'll get to do this again.
Sounds good.
Thanks, bro.
Yep.
Later. All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast of the Detective Diaries one more time. We went a little bit long, but it was fun. That was Russell Acord of Travel Channel's Expedition Bigfoot. He's an awesome guy, and I hope to see him very soon and maybe have him back on the broadcast. So until Thursday, I guess I'll go do some sort of investigation and adventures, and hopefully I'll see you back on Thursday. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your comments, and we'll see you soon.